I need to tell you about my divorce. It wasn't from my husband, it was from my inner overachiever. And honestly, it was messier than any real breakup I've ever had. This relationship had been toxic for decades, but I kept making excuses. She just wants the best for us, I'd tell myself while crying over a Pinterest craft at 2 a.m. Today we're talking about the most important breakup of midlife, divorcing the version of yourself that society convinced you to be. My inner overachiever was like that friend who seems supportive but actually just makes you feel terrible about yourself. She convinced me that love meant staying up until 3 a.m. making homemade Halloween costumes shaped like the solar system. Let me be clear. Everything you were taught about excellence was designed by people who profit from your anxiety. The same people who told us that good mothers make everything from scratch while maintaining perfect homes and advancing their careers. The perfectionism industry built an empire on convincing women that we weren't trying hard enough. Pinterest became the drug dealer, Instagram was the enabler, and our inner overachiever was the addiction. Society convinced us that perfectionism was a virtue, not a mental health issue. They called it high standards and attention to detail, but really it was anxiety wearing a productivity costume. Looking back, the red flags were everywhere. My inner overachiever convinced me that good enough was a personal failure and that store-bought birthday cakes meant I didn't love my children. She had me believing that other mothers were naturally better at crafts, meal planning, and remembering which kid needed what on which day. Turns out they were just buying things from Target and pretending they made them. The gaslighting was relentless. Everyone else seems to have their life together, she'd whisper while I scrolled through social media at midnight, comparing my behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. She convinced me that my worth was directly tied to my output. Bad day at work? Must mean I'm not trying hard enough. Kids acting up? Obviously a reflection of my parenting skills. House messy? Personal and moral failure. The most insidious part was how she disguised control as care. I just want everything to be perfect for the family, she'd say, while forcing me to hand sew Halloween costumes that would be worn for 3 hours and forgotten forever. My inner overachiever had me convinced that everyone else was effortlessly perfect while I was struggling. She never mentioned that everyone else was also struggling. They were just better at hiding it or had given up trying. The breaking point came when I realized I was spending more time documenting my children's childhood than actually experiencing it. I was so busy creating the perfect photo album that I missed the actual moments. Dear inner overachiever, this relationship isn't working anymore. While I appreciate your ambition, your standards are unrealistic and your expectations are exhausting. You convinced me that my worth was tied to my productivity, that my love was measured by my effort, and that anything less than perfection was failure. This is toxic, and I'm done. I'm keeping the good memories, like that one time we organized the closet really well. But I'm leaving behind the shame, the comparison, and the midnight crafting sessions. Your services are no longer required. Please collect your vision boards, your color-coded calendars, and your impossible standards. Do not contact me about just one more project. I'll be forwarding all perfectionist expectations to my new representative, Good Enough. She's much more reasonable and significantly less exhausting to work with. Effective immediately, I am resigning from the position of perfect human. I will be accepting the role of functional adult, which comes with reasonable hours and achievable expectations. Divorcing your inner overachiever comes with a grief process. First, denial. Maybe I can just be a little bit perfectionist, like perfectionist light. Then anger. Why did no one tell me that homemade lunches weren't a requirement for good parenting? Bargaining. Okay, I'll accept store-bought cupcakes, but they have to be from the fancy bakery. Depression. Who am I if I'm not the person who does everything perfectly? Finally, acceptance. I am enough, even if my Halloween costume came from a bag. The depression stage is particularly hard because perfectionism becomes part of your identity. I'm the mom who makes everything special becomes your entire personality. Letting go of that feels like losing yourself. But here's the thing. You're not losing yourself. You're finding yourself. The real you was buried under layers of society's expectations and your own impossible standards. The withdrawal symptoms are real. You'll have phantom urges to organize things that don't need organizing. You'll catch yourself starting to plan elaborate themed dinners and have to consciously stop. You don't have to completely eliminate your standards. You just need supervised visits, like a restraining order for your perfectionism. My ambitions now live with their father, my pragmatic side, who teaches them about good enough and diminishing returns. Much healthier environment. We have a custody arrangement. I get my goals on weekends, and perfectionism gets them. Never. Perfectionism lost visitation rights after the Great Gingerbread House incident of 2019. That incident involved architectural blueprints, 3 trips to specialty stores, and tears over royal icing consistency. The gingerbread house looked amazing and fell apart within 24 hours. That's when I knew the relationship had to end. Learning to love your post-perfectionist self is like dating again. Hi, I'm the version of me who accepts B- efforts and calls it a win. This new version of me is so much more fun. She doesn't cry over crooked picture frames or lose sleep over thank you note timing. She's delightfully mediocre and proud of it. The sex life is better, too. When you're not exhausted from trying to be perfect all day, you have energy for actual enjoyment. Your relationships improve because you stop expecting perfection from other people, too. Turns out, when you lower your impossible standards, everyone becomes much more tolerable. The most liberating part is realizing that nobody was actually expecting perfection from you except you. Most people were just relieved that someone was handling things at all. I had to get a restraining order against Pinterest. It kept showing up uninvited, whispering about mason jar crafts and themed birthday parties that require architectural planning. But look at this adorable way to organize your spice rack using repurposed baby food jars, it would call from across the parking lot. No contact, I'd firmly respond. Instagram gets supervised visits only, and only if it promises not to show me any more easy 5-minute meals that clearly took professional chefs 3 hours to prepare. The home organization industry had to be blocked entirely. Marie Kondo and I are no longer speaking. Her version of joy and mine are fundamentally incompatible. I also had to unfriend several lifestyle bloggers who made everything look effortless, while clearly having professional help, unlimited budgets, and children who apparently never made messes. Here's what nobody tells you about divorcing your perfectionism. Life becomes actually enjoyable. You start appreciating things for what they are instead of mourning what they're not. My house is lived in instead of staged. My meals are edible instead of Instagram-worthy. My children are happy instead of perfectly groomed for social media. I've replaced self-improvement with self-acceptance, and it turns out that's much more sustainable. The time I used to spend on perfectionist projects is now available for things like sleeping, reading, and having conversations that don't revolve around optimizing something. My mental energy is no longer consumed by the constant low-level anxiety of never being good enough. That energy is now available for creativity, spontaneity, and actual enjoyment. The most surprising benefit is how much more present I am. When you're not constantly evaluating everything for improvement opportunities, you can actually experience life as it happens. I no longer see relaxation as laziness or rest as wasted time. These are necessary components of a sustainable life, not moral failings. So here's your divorce paperwork. Start with one area where you're currently overachieving and just stop. Stop making elaborate lunches. Stop hand-washing delicate items. Stop pretending you understand cryptocurrency. Replace I should with I could, but I won't. And watch how much time you suddenly have for things that actually matter. Start saying good enough out loud. Practice it in the mirror. Make it your mantra. This is good enough, and I am good enough. Set a timer for perfectionist activities. Give yourself exactly 15 minutes to make something perfect, then stop. Done is better than perfect, and perfect is the enemy of good. The goal isn't to become lazy or stop caring. It's to care about the right things in reasonable amounts. Save your perfectionism for things that actually matter, like your values, not your vegetable arrangements. Learn to distinguish between perfectionism and caring. Caring means doing your best within reasonable limits. Perfectionism means destroying your mental health for marginal improvements that nobody will notice or remember. Welcome to your new life as someone who does things well enough and calls it a day. The alimony payments to perfectionism are expensive. They cost you your sanity, but freedom is priceless. This isn't about lowering your standards. It's about having reasonable standards. There's a difference between excellence and perfectionism. Excellence is achievable and sustainable. Perfectionism is neither. Your worth is not determined by your output. Your love is not measured by your effort. Your value as a human being is not contingent on your ability to create Pinterest-worthy anything. The revolution of reasonable expectations starts with divorcing the impossible version of yourself that someone else convinced you to be. File those papers today. Your future self will thank you for choosing sanity over perfection. She's probably napping right now, and she deserves it.